It's championship week in the NFL. The only thing hotter than last week's playoffs are picks. Looking for 6 straight winning weeks on Beat the Book. Welcome to Beat the Book, brought to you by the Turf Club at Northern Quest Resort and Casino. I'm your host, Keith Osso. That's right, 4-1 in our picks last week. We are 8-1 over the last 2 weeks. We're 14-3 over the last 4 weeks, and we've won 5 straight here on Beat the Book. Now, you may be wondering what games we've been picking. Well, between our on-air television segments and this Beat the Book podcast, we've accumulated that score over the last 5 weeks. So it pays to not only watch this podcast, maybe learn a little bit about your betting strategy, but it also pays to watch us on Wednesdays and Fridays on 4 News Now as we give out picks on the air. So, what are we going to do this week? Well, it's going to be a tough one. All 4 games last week coming down to the wire, 4 walk-off wins, unbelievable football games, and we were 13 seconds away from being 5-0 in our picks. And then we all know what happened at the end of the Bills-Kansas City game. We'll take a loss if it means having a game that exciting. That's just how it works. We know at some point these picks are going to balance out. That's the way sports gambling works. But right now we're on one heck of a heater. Let's keep it going this week. We're going to break down both games here with our guest of the week. It's Will Sherritt, the man that taught me how to gamble in sports and all the ins and outs. We're going to break down the championship games for you now.
It's an interesting Final Four. Certainly before the season started, I wouldn't have seen San Francisco here. I wouldn't have seen Cincinnati here. I'm not overly surprised the Chiefs are here or the Rams, but those other 2 teams, your San Francisco 49ers, first of all, what a win on the road. And you made a clutch kick at the end. I got to see some video of your excitement level. Yeah. Walk me through the end of that game from a fan perspective.
Yeah, it's just a game that it's zeros across the board, and you go, how in the heck, how'd they win that game? I don't understand. They didn't score a touchdown. They didn't do anything particularly well on offense except give Debo the ball a little bit. That's right. The Packers have an even worse special teams than the Niners' terrible special teams, and that was a difference, I guess. But yeah, it's one of those where it's tough to you sit back and go, how? And then okay, yeah, after that opening drive, the defense looked like they have the last few weeks. So fun matchup this week with 2 of the best D-lines in the league in the NFC game and 2 of the best O-lines in the league too. So as we've talked about before, those are good things to look at when you're gambling, and those are 2 of the best.
Well, 2 of the best, and both teams left tackles banged up, So, right. I mean, the wrong team for both teams to have your left tackle not playing or banged up, right?
Right. Yeah. Trent Williams didn't play in that Week 18 game, and it didn't seem to matter when they came back from that deficit. Whitworth would be a huge loss for the Rams as well. I think his wife was one of the wives petitioning for Rams fans to not sell their tickets, or if they were to sell them to other fans. And that didn't work out too well. I think it's something like 45% Niner fans or something that I saw online today. So not sure if there's a home field advantage in that game.
Well, normally, as we know, home field advantage 3 points in the NFL, right? So do you think that they factored in the line this week that this isn't really going to be home field advantage? If anything, it's 50-50?
It really doesn't feel like it. These teams on paper are pretty even. If you look at it, it feels like it should be more of a pick 'em. That right. game feels off to me. I'm sure you can look at it and go, well, they've won 6 straight. It's going to happen sometime when it goes the other way, but it doesn't feel like they're adjusting for home field in that game. It's really got to be a neutral field, and this game should be closer to a pick 'em probably.
What do you think? What do you think's got to happen for the Niners to get? Was it 7 straight now? They won 6 in a row against the Rams. It's weird. Like the Seahawks can't lose to San Francisco, who can't lose to the Rams, who can't lose to the Seahawks. I mean, it's just an interesting division, but the matchup doesn't favor the Rams, at least the last 6 games. What needs to happen to make sure that happens again for the 49ers?
It's Kyle Shanahan playing the way he wants to play, and that's running the ball. And you look at the Rams defense, right? Where are they really strong? Up front, right? They got 2 of the best D linemen in the league and the best lockdown corner on the outside in Jalen Ramsey. Those are their strengths, it seems like to me. Where they seem to have issues are, well, when you're asking Eric Weddle to come out of retirement and play safety for you, maybe you're not great up the middle. Their linebackers aren't great either. And so to me, that plays in the hand, and I think partially why the Niners have been so successful against them. I mean, they can own the middle of the field once you get past that D line. That's exactly where the Niners want to be. And who are their best players besides the running game with Elijah Mitchell? Well, it's over the middle with Debo and George Kittle. That's where the Rams struggle to me. So it's Kyle controlling the clock and really hurting the Rams up the middle. You know, when you pay all these guys, you have to give somewhere. That seems to be where the Rams have given up.
It sounded to me like the key to this game for the Rams defense is to get San Francisco to play to the sidelines, because they love everything in the middle, like you're talking about. They run in the middle, they throw in the middle, but easier said than done. No one's been able to get them to do it in this postseason run.
Right.
And my goodness, you're right. I think this should be a pick 'em. I do think the Rams are going to win, but I have San Francisco plus 3.5. That's just, the hook is too much. I'm taking San Francisco. I'm with you. There's something about this matchup that doesn't work for the Rams, and San Francisco is not afraid to go in and have a home field advantage on the road in LA. I mean, there's no fear here for the 49ers at all.
Certainly. I saw this open in 4 on Sunday, and kind of looked at it, and then you saw it get hit down to 3.5 pretty quickly. It seems like that buyback is on 3, and so don't envision it getting past that point. But we'll see how things shape up when limits get higher, a little bit closer to kickoff, and the public weighs in. But yeah, to me, it seems more of a pick 'em, especially seeing that it's a neutral field.
You see, you're a 49er fan. You watch more of their games than I do, or at least follow the team more than I do. And you and I've talked before that their secondary not great right now.
No.
But I'm going to ask you a question. Does Cam Akers being back and running physical, does that change? I know that we're talking about the 49ers having a hard time in the passing game, but they can't just sit back and worry about the pass. They have to worry a little bit about the run this time around with Akers being back.
Yeah, a guy that you and I have talked offline about, it's like, you've had that injury. You said it's a year and a half to never.
I cannot believe it.
He's back in 6 or 7 months, not just back running, back playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But you think about Sean McVay, and he's running a very similar offense to what Kyle's running, right? And so he too is trying to establish that, and they've been fairly successful, obviously, against the Cardinals. That's really how they dominated them and won that game. So yeah, that's kind of a dimension that they've wanted to rely on more, maybe haven't. And if they can get that going, you know, we know about 10. We've known about 10 for a while here, and threes is pretty good too. So I don't want to see any of those guys singled up on the outside against the Niners. That's not where you want to be if you're a San Francisco fan.
If you're looking at the total points, 46, what do you think of that? Do you lean one way or another?
I was looking at that a little bit earlier today, kind of looking at some team total stuff, more to the other game, but then poking around, and seeing what this one had in store too. You know, I think a lot of folks will probably look at last game and that barrage. That's a tough one for me. I feel like the total is right on. To me, that's, you know, the kind of game that both teams want to play. Who can make fewer mistakes. We saw what the Rams did last game and tried to give it away. What was it, 4 turnovers there to get Brady back in it. So yeah, to me the total is right. I think the way you can try and look at some of these numbers too, and you get the 3 games left, it's all tight, right? The totals and the sides, but you know, you can look at the derivatives too. What are first halves? What are team totals? And try and look at some other ways to make some plays. So for me, I didn't like anything in the total. I did play the Niners at 3.5. Wouldn't love it quite as much at 3, but to me, that's incredibly valuable in a game that's, you know, probably closer to 1.
I agree. And I have them at 3.5 too. I would love to play the first half under. I don't even know what the number is, but I expect this to be 2 teams that know each other so well that they just feel each other out to look for something new. And then in the second half, I think we go bombs away. So, all right, the other game, you talked, we'll start with the total because you were just talking about it. So 46 is a normal NFL playoff over under. 54.5 is massive. And I'm still hitting the over. I can't I can't, especially if Matthew doesn't play. The Cincinnati, I mean, you just got owned by Gabriel Davis. Okay,
Right.
now you got Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd coming in, and with Joe Burrow, who's got all the confidence and swagger in the world. I think Cincinnati can score. I know Kansas City can score. And I just want it to happen. Sometimes you just have to bet what you want to have happen. And I'm doing this, taking the over 54.5. I'm also taking Cincy to cover 7, which I'm a little nervous about. I think Kansas City wins, with 7 such a big number in a game where both teams can score. What are your first thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask about totals in the Chiefs with. I was one of the few hanging out on under 55 Island last week.
You looked good until there was 2 minutes left.
Yeah, exactly. Was feeling good. Was watching the live line all game. It was hovering around 50, and so I felt pretty good about it. And then, like you said, the last 2 minutes happened, and poof, right in my face. So probably not the one to be asking totals about, but I don't know how you can be on an under in this game. This plays exactly to where the Chiefs want it to be. Can't get to Mahomes, and you can win everywhere across the middle on that team too. So it was crazy. It felt like the Bills were in the backfield so much last week in that game, and couldn't get home. They couldn't get home.
Right.
I kept thinking to myself, if this is the Rams or the Niners, are they finishing some of these plays? It just, that rotation that the Bills had, they just couldn't bring him down. He was so good. I don't know how you're on an under in this game. I look at Cincinnati though, and before we came on, I was, looking at some of the box scores, and against the Raiders, they were outgained by a half yard per play. Last week against the Titans, they were outgained by 1.5 or by 1.5 yards per play. That's a lot. That's a lot. And some fluky turnovers as well. What did the Titans have? 4 last week? 3.
It was odd. 3. Yeah. It was a big number.
3 picks. Is that repeatable? I don't know.
Probably not against the Chiefs.
No, and probably not against the Chiefs either. It did look like Matthew was going to play, which is huge for them. When I think of Spagnuolo, I think of just blitzing all day. Not sure you want to do that against Burrow, but to me, I feel like there's one thing I know in this game. It's that the Chiefs are going to score. The Bengals aren't going to stop them. You were talking about a first half total in the Niner game. To me, maybe the look here is just Chiefs team total. I feel like that's the thing I feel like I know I can count on. I haven't played it yet. But there's so many situations where the Chiefs blow them out in this game. Certainly think that the Bengals can score, but I think there's one thing I know of, and that's Mahomes and those guys putting some points on the board. So I believe they scored 31 last game when these two teams played. What was that, week 17, week 18? And so to me, that's something I'd look at. That total's probably got to be around there, 30, 31, 32, somewhere in there. So if you have a lot of confidence in the Bengals stopping the Chiefs, I'm not sure why. So I think that's where I'd look too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't looked at the props in this one, but you could probably get a pretty good return on over 5.5 sacks for the Chiefs defense. I'd take that.
Yeah, I mean, you watched last week. It felt like some of those were on Burrow too. I mean, you can't get sacked whatever it was 9 times and not have some of those be on the quarterback.
Yeah, they do that though. They get sacked a bunch and then they hit big plays. I mean, that's what they do, and then throw Mixon in there here and there, but that's the Bengal offense. And that's why there was so much controversy about taking Jamar Chase in the first round instead of a lineman, because you got to keep Burrow healthy, and he just takes the sacks and then it's a big play. Now, it was interesting last week. Tennessee basically said, we're not going to let Chase beat us. He still hit a 75-yard freaking 1-yard completion, because he's Jamar Chase.
Right.
The only thing that really stopped him is the blocker in front of him couldn't run fast enough to stay in front of him, causing problems. I can't imagine the Chiefs are going to be able to stop Jamar Chase the way that they sort of slowed him down last week. And T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are better than Gabriel Davis. So I'll just leave it at that, And now Joe Burrow might not quite be in the zone that Josh Allen was in, but I just think this offense can score. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Kansas City. And so hopefully we're going to get that over 54.5 rather easily.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
such a big number.
It is. It's a hilarious number, but again, that was part of my thinking last week with 55. Was wow, this is a huge number for any time of year in the NFL, especially in the playoffs, and it can turn quickly. But yeah, I don't see where a ton of defense is coming here, but the Chiefs are. Well, they score in 4 straight possessions or something, I think, when these two teams played a few weeks ago. So that's a good sign if you're looking at any sort of over in this game.
Let me ask you this. Of the 4 teams left, which one would you feel most confident putting your money on that's your Super Bowl winner?
I think the future markets had the Chiefs favored kind of in every iteration. If you look at, I think they'd be 3-point favorites over the Niners, if I'm correct. The NFC teams would both be favored over the Bengals too. So Chiefs are the odds-on favorites and probably should be. It's weird with San Francisco. It's just okay. Sure, things clicked at the right time, basically at the 11th hour for them. They were down with their backs against the wall and weren't going to make the playoffs, and then everything has gone the right way for them. But that's not certainly why you gamble either.
Right.
It just because things have been going well for them, you want to have some reason statistically too to back them up. But yeah, it in some ways it just kind of feels like they're the team of destiny right now.
Right.
That can obviously change in a second. Yeah, when you got Mahomes though behind center, it's hard to pass that up.
I agree with you fully, and I agree with all the lines. The Chiefs, I have the most confidence in the last 4 teams. So when I'm looking at the 4 teams playing this weekend and I can't quite make it out, I go, well, if I have a slam dunk that they're the best team left, bet the Chiefs. I mean, it could be that simple. 7 points is a lot, but there is a very realistic possibility the Chiefs win this game by 28.
Yeah.
I
mean, the scenarios of them blowing the Bengals out, there are tons more of that if you play this game 100 times than the other way around. No doubt about it.
So, and then with the Rams and Niners, holy cow, I don't like that game at all as far as betting it. I like the 3.5, but I have no idea who's going to win that game. I mean, the Rams should. That's why they're 3.5-point favorites.
Right.
But they can't beat that team. I mean, and I hate to use a streak, but there's something about that matchup. You have to gauge that into your betting. Have to.
Yeah, no, certainly. And I think both NFC teams are intriguing against the Chiefs too, because what is the kryptonite for Mahomes? What did we see last year? Well, the offensive line broke down and that was it. The line's better this year, certainly, but either one of those NFC teams are going to be fun to see against Mahomes because they can both get to him. We were just chatting about the Bills game from last week. They didn't get home on a lot. They had a lot of pressure, but didn't get home. What's it going to look like if he goes up against one of those 2 lines? I think that'll be really fun to watch.
I agree. And then I like the Rams better because then you also have Ramsey that can do some things with Hill and Kelsey. My guess is they'd put him on Kelsey and they would bracket Tyreek Hill. And if McCole Hardman can beat you, tip your cap.
Right. Certainly.
Because he hasn't shown up a lot in his career.
Right. Yeah. If Byron Pringle's going to take you down, okay, fine.
Yeah. I thought he was a potato chip can. We got beat by that guy. Right. Will, I really want to thank you for coming on. I know you're super busy down in Austin, but fun chatting with you. Let's just hope for something remotely close to last weekend and we can enjoy Championship Sunday.
That sounds great. Enjoy, and hopefully we can chat before the Super Bowl. Looking forward to it.
As always, a big thank you to our guest, Will Sherritt. It's his second time on Beat the Book as we learn how we process and break down what we're looking for to sports bet. It's not just about going in for us and just picking, I think this team's better than that. It's the decision-making behind it and the process that we take before we make our bets that this podcast is all about. We try to bring you different angles and different views from people that have been sports gambling for a lot longer than I have, as it's only been about a handful of years for myself. These guys have been doing this for decades, so we go back to those and I know Will looks young, but he's been doing this a very, very long time. So our picks for the week, as you heard, it's the one I feel best about is San Francisco plus 3.5, I believe. that this Niners-Rams matchup is just a good matchup for San Francisco. I think you got to write history here a little bit. 6 straight wins by San Francisco. I do think the Rams are going to win this game, but I think it's going to be within a field goal. So I'll take the hook. So I'm being honest. I think the Rams are going to win, but I will take the 3.5 for San Francisco. As far as the other game goes, the more I talk to Will, the more I don't like my Cincinnati +7 pick, but I got to stick with my pick. I locked it in at +7. I'm going to take the Bengals at +7. I do feel good, even though there's a recency bias with points. I do feel good about the over 54.5. I do believe that Joe Burrow is going to have a lot of success. I think Jamar Chase is just too much for their defensive backfield. Remember when these guys played just a few weeks back, Jamar Chase had 3 touchdowns. Joe Burrow threw for over 440 and 4 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to have those kind of numbers, but I certainly think 303 touchdowns is well within reach for Joe Burrow. If that happens, I think they can stay within a touchdown because their defense has to be able to get a stop or two. Otherwise, we're going to lose this bet. So we'll take the over, and we'll take Cincinnati +7. Enjoy the games, everybody. We're going to have Super Bowl. We're going to have a Super Bowl matchup by the time we talk to you next week. Hopefully, we get something as good as last week in the playoffs coming up here this weekend. And as always, have good luck and enjoy the games.